thankfully I went broke because I needed to, because I think that if I went from having $1 million to 5 to 15 to whatever, not that I couldn't have returned to the righteous path, but it was very unlikely that I would have, been a good man for a long time.
You would have thought the path you're on was correct, because clearly you're making money, so like, why would you change this? Like, yeah, sometimes you have to be smited to
That's a good word. Yeah.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy, we
All right,
working
guys,
hard for
welcome
this
back.
money.
Table One Podcast.
You know I've been in my
Justin Young,
bag.
other co-host
Buddy, I
Art
got
Harmon,
it.
and very special guest Aram Zobian. And I'm gonna try this one time. Aram Zobian. No, see, I sound like a douchebag. I really tried. Like I knew I wasn't gonna come off right, but like you're supposed to roll your R a little bit with your name, right?
A little bit.
Will you say it just so I know how to?
It's Aram Zobian.
Yeah, that's. I'm gonna try it again later, I think. But
Aram, you're from Alabama.
Aram Zobian. So I read that you grew up in Rhode Island, but you come from Armenian descent. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are your parents like first generation or been here for a while?
Yeah, my mother is more like American Armenian, and my father grew up in Lebanon.
Okay.
So he's an immigrant, and yeah, so I have kind of a mix of American and Armenian flavor going on.
How old was your father when he moved to the U.S.?
I think it was a culture shock for him. He still kind of says like, "Oh, I'm not from here."
Yeah,
like
okay.
50 years later. Yeah.
Oh, so okay, so he was fairly young then, like because you're around.
Oh, how old?
Yeah,
he was. Yeah, he was young. He was like 10.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So he's Americanized, but like not to what most people would think Americanized
Yeah,
is.
pretty Middle Eastern.
Okay. So why Rhode Island?
I think that's just where he landed for college, and then met my mother there, and
Did he ride over on the Mayflower? Is that where they landed?
actually, was it?
Plymouth Rock was in Massachusetts, I think.
Ah, well.
Yeah,
Sorry,
close by though.
we usually
It
don't
was,
do any like history math on the pod, but I
one of
believe it.
one of the colonies.
Yeah, that's it. All right, so cool. So it was a small town in Rhode Island, and did you grow up like playing games or like?
Yeah, I played a lot of games. I was a RuneScape nerd. I like no
RuneScape,
life.
all right,
Yeah, I had
yeah.
no life to that game.
Oh,
We just had Martin Zamani on, and he was also in RuneScape, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I played that. I played a bunch of Mario, Nintendo, Super Smash Brothers, all the good ones.
So you were more into video games, not like bridge or chess or gin or anything like that.
Not really. Chess was never very interesting to me. It seemed like so rigid and kind of tough to learn. It would probably have been good for me if I learned it, but yeah, it wasn't an interest of mine.
But did you, on RuneScape, I only learned this last episode or last when we talked to Martin, but you can make money, and you can there's gambling in it, and there's the money in the game has real world value apparently.
Sure.
So is that
yeah.
something that you picked up and got you interested in, not getting paid for work, but figuring it out on your own?
Sort of. I was kind of at the end of my career. I was doing high risk fights where you'd be risking like $100 in real life. And so it could translate to money if you sold it, but I got scammed at the end of it, for a bunch of, pretty much my whole bankroll in RuneScape, and I was like, it's kind of a good time to quit. So I'm glad I did, because it was kind of ruining my life.
All right. Well, two questions from
fun.
that then. How old are you when you got depleted or ruined?
I think I was 18,
Okay.
17, 18. I played from 9 years old, so it was
Okay.
a long period, yeah.
And how does one get scammed in RuneScape?
Well, I had a friend who had access to my account, and he took a bunch of my stuff, and pretended like he didn't, and I was like, okay, that's cool.
All right.
Well, good to find out over RuneScape versus 10 years later when you both get into poker and it's your whole bankroll on poker stock.
When you say friend, was it like a childhood friend, or was it someone you've met on RuneScape and became friends with, kind of through chats and stuff like that?
I just knew him in high school.
Okay.
And we had hung out sometimes, but yeah, people are strange.
What's he doing now? You want to call him out?
I have no idea. Probably not much.
Fair enough. So poker wasn't even on the radar at this point, right? I mean, poker it kind of went through a boom when you were an adolescent, right?
Yeah, I watched my buddy in middle school showed me, and I was like, oh, this is a cool game. We watched it on ESPN, and that was the best footage. Let's be real. skipping over to like this table here, and then having this drama over here with the, you know, the Jack Link's beef wild card hand. So I really loved it, and watching it, I would be like, why are these guys betting so small? Like, these guys suck. Like, I want to hang with these guys one day. Like, I want to go in there and play. So it interested me, but I didn't play till years later.
Okay, when you say years later, so you're done with RuneScape, you're 18, you're upstanding, smart individual, it seems like. You're like college with like a plan for a degree, profession, real like life?
Yeah, I went into community college mostly to just appease my parents, I guess, for a lack of a better term. And I was going for finance. I didn't really have a direction, so to speak. I was not really interested in going to school. So at the time I was actually selling weed. I was working like a couple minimum wage jobs, and I was introduced by selling weed to one of my clients to go to a game, and I fell in love with it immediately. I was like, wow, this is the best thing ever, and pretty much just dropped everything. I had done 3 years in community college and hadn't graduated, so it wasn't a great situation school-wise.
Oh, that's okay. So, what got you into weed selling first? Obviously, weed smoking is a gateway drug to weed selling, but like you just started buying more in bulk, and like all your friends were always hitting you up for weed, and you just decided to go from there. Yeah,
I think as a teen, I was like not that popular. So part of it was validation and making money. Like I never had money. I never had like an allowance. My parents were not. They didn't spoil me. We had a good life, but they never, like if I asked for money for the movies, they would kind of give me a hard time about it. So I was like, I want my own money, and I didn't necessarily want to work just yet. So I was doing that instead.
Okay, so you can be too strict with your kids on money. They'll go out and sell weed and get their own money.
They'll teach themselves to be an entrepreneur. Like honestly, like I think.
That was
outside the illegal part of it, I think that's fantastic. I mean, as long as you don't get caught, I guess. But
I take.
Were you growing your own, or
no? I should have been. But, anyways, we're not.
We're not going down the weed rabbit hole. Okay. I'm sure some of that has statute of limitations that don't run up. So.
But I remember when I had a real job, and like I was playing some home games in North Carolina, like almost like inevitably like 10% of the players in the room would be drug dealers, and like it was kind of a perfect fit because they had loose bills, and they wanted to like run it through. They're not trying to launder or anything like that, but like they like to gamble too, just in general, and like it was always fun to meet different people, like when I was like 22, 23 or whatever. So you were like basically one of those guys. Like when you were like 21 years old, you just went to some home games in Rhode Island and had all that weed money laying around?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, and I pretty much blew through all of it. I had about 20K saved, and I went to zero. So I went, poker players going broke. I did it like a few times, but I did it fast with with the money that I had. And yeah, that's something I really like about poker, is that you can play with, doctors and lawyers, but also drug dealers and world travelers and all these characters.
Yeah, it's the great equalizer. If you have the buy-in, that's all you need. Show up and meet whoever else has the buy-in and wants to play.
Yeah, that is the beautiful part about poker, and it still continues today. I mean, like, we'll get to the high rollers you play now and all that stuff, but like it still kind of holds true. Obviously, you have your poker professionals, but like you have different varying degrees of the ones that study 40 hours a week, and the ones that used to be good and now don't care that much, and they just want to get in there, and then the business guys, and they come from real estate or investment or student loans or go all the way down the line. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty nice to strike up conversations with people from all walks of life, which is the best part about cash games as well, I think.
Yeah. All right, if you've been in crypto long enough, we all know the scams, getting rugged, putting your private keys where they don't belong, telling people your seed phrase. But if you want to get return on your crypto without having to give up your private keys, you got to check out gauntlet.xyz. They curate these crypto vaults, the Morpho vaults, all sorts of different assets you can put into there and get return. Right now, the returns are very, very high. People are obviously coming on board because since we started doing ads for them, Gauntlet's assets in crypto vaults have gone from 100 million up to almost 700 million. So some of you out there are listening. I've got the crypto that I'm not using in a vault, and I would do the same if I were you. So do your own research, obviously, but check out gauntlet.xyz/T1. All right, back to the show.
All right, cool. So you're there. You just blow through 20K. It's a good indoctrination to poker. So like when did you start taking it seriously, or did you always take it seriously and just couldn't win?
Yeah, I couldn't win because I was like, anytime I had a gut shot, I was all in. So I was, as our biases show through our play, I was super, super aggressive, like from the start. And I was like, okay, I need to learn some fundamentals. I picked up some books. Phil Gordon's Little Green Book was the game changer for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the first one that's been mentioned on our pod. I never read that one. I feel like I read a lot of poker books growing up, but like, all right.
I did hear a lot of Phil Gordon on the Celebrity from Bravo that they used to have, like where Jason Alexander and those guys would play. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 29 now.
Okay.
Yeah, turning 30 this year.
All right. So you read Phil Gordon's, it's called Little Green Book?
Yeah.
All right. Shout out Little Green Book. You guys can sure find it on Amazon somewhere.
Yeah, it's old school, but it's got the pot odds and the implied odds and all that good stuff.
Okay. So from there you realized that gut shot's not the best thing in the world?
I was like, man, I'm putting in a lot of money with 4 outs.
All right. So you start getting good. Do you continue to sell weed to like kind of maintain the poker habit, or is it kind of reverse?
Yeah, reverse. I weaned off of it because, eventually you just come to find out it's just not a good use of time. And
Sure.
I don't super regret it now, but I regretted it for some time after. But yeah, poker, I'm glad it took me away from that for sure. Just was really happy to study the game and be a student of the game rather than just going to school for something I didn't really want to go for.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So finance is gone. I assume you're still playing these same home games. They probably have you pegged as like the biggest fish or one of the bigger fish in
Yeah,
there.
I was on the texts lists actually.
Yeah.
It's like, X is coming tonight, Aram's coming tonight.
You were the bait they were dangling.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nice carrot. Okay.
Unbeknownst to me, until after.
Yeah, you got an accidental text one time. You're like, I'm Aram.
All right. So you're continuing to play this, but at the same time, I think you start dabbling in tournaments around the same time as well, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I played. I was like 19, 20, and I never knew you could go to like Bahamas or Florida to play when you were 18. So I was playing some online, and that took off pretty fast. I was playing, like Bovada was my first big score, won the $150 Sunday tournament for like 20K, and that was just huge at the time.
Yeah. And you just roll that into live tournaments. I think I did a little bit of research on you. Like your first tournament was like 2016, or first cash, like live cash was 2016, which puts you at like 21, 22, somewhere there.
Yeah, exactly. At like Foxwoods or whatever, and just didn't have much patience. Didn't really understand late game at all. Like most young kids, it's such an infinite game, right? That it takes so many years just to understand some things. Like the online was something like I won that 20K, and then a couple months later, America's Card Room, which used to be my favorite site. I don't play on there anymore, but they were running a $250 tournament every week, every Sunday, and it was $1 million guaranteed. And they literally overlaid every single week by like $250,000 to $100,000. It was just like the most insane value of all time. I told my buddy Bucky, I was like, yo, I'm gonna win one of these. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I chopped it for like 110K. So I was, 23 years old, or 22 actually, and just had a 6-figure score, and like it was 6 in the morning. I was like, what the heck? Like,
Had no one to high five.
yeah.
And you're still in Rhode Island, so
That was a big thing. I was like, man, it was kind of sad that like I didn't have like friends around, so I like drove over to my parents' house and was like, hey, let's go for breakfast. And, celebrate.
we all celebrate differently.
Yeah.
You do it with over easy eggs. That's good.
Yeah.
Some pop the champagne and some pop the salsa and pour it on the scrambled eggs. It's great.
That is great. All right.
So that was the 20K to 120 spin or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. And then I had a huge scare. Like America's Card Room went down for like 2 days, and all the money was on there. And I was like,
oh no,
man. So I withdrew like a bunch to Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin went from like, you remember when it was at like 15 initially? Like I went up to 15, then I went back down to 9, so I lost a bunch of money there.
Oh, you got
Bad
it at 15.
introduction
I got you.
to Bitcoin, yeah, unfortunately. So that dissuaded my interest for it. But
That's brutal. You go in and lose 40%, and then if you would have just closed your eyes and sat for 3 years,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
You'd still be on the text list.
No, hopefully I'd be here.
Were you into crypto before your big score at all, or was it just kind of like a mode to get money on and off?
I was peripheral to it because you deposit and withdraw, but it just wasn't something I understood, I think. So, yeah, obviously some FOMO, and have had to make peace of like, oh, I could just be a multi-millionaire, like 100 millionaire or whatever if I played my cards right. But obviously you can do that in so many different ways.
Yeah, you can beat yourself up. Like I think I've told the story a handful of times on numerous pods, but like Brian Mycon, like got a hold of me. This is probably 2010, and like he told me to invest, and then like I was like, no, and he's like, okay, well, join my site, Stills with Clubs or whatever. I was like, sure. And I tried to give him like $500 to put on there for me. He's like, no, you have to create a wallet, get Bitcoin. I was like, I don't know anything of what you're saying. This sounds like a scam. Like I know you're not a scammer, but no, I'm not going to do that. And like this is when like Bitcoins were like pennies, literal pennies. And like,
Yeah, there was a time where he was just like sending people, like when the sites were just getting started, like just sending him 5 Bitcoin. But here, just you make a wallet, I'll send you 5 Bitcoin. You just throw it on the site, you'll play a little bit. And it's like, yeah, I mean, there's people that spent like $1 billion on a pizza at the time in its currency, but like, yeah, you can't have really any regrets on that because
there's no guarantee that you would hold on to them as well. Like I hit something on ACR and got paid out solely in Bitcoin. I think this is about similar time. The Bitcoin's between 10 and 15K, and I got like 8 Bitcoin in my wallet, and like I didn't know what to do. I just wanted to get it out of my wallet. I wasn't like trying to be like long-term heavy Bitcoin or anything like that. So I was trying to sell, even though it was fun to say that I had like 8 Bitcoin at one time, long time ago. But
Gotcha.
I was never going to hold on to it, I don't think.
Yeah, I think you just drive yourself crazy with that stuff. And Nick Petrangelo, I was talking about it with him recently. He was like, he brought up a good point. He's like, were you ever the guy that was going to buy a Bitcoin at 18K and hope it goes to 60? And I was like, no. So he's like, you just stop worrying about all this bullshit and just play poker, put your head down.
That's right.
Yeah, good advice.
Yeah.
stick with what you know.
Right.
All right, so was it just smooth sailing from that? I mean, granted, like you lost 40% when you put it on the ACR money on Bitcoin, but you're just like, okay, I'm going to start just playing live tournaments because you have a shit ton of like results, and like I assume you put in a shit ton of volume like during this time as well.
Yeah, I caught the tournament bug, so to speak. I think I was way better online, to be honest, than I was live, and that's, again, the personality shining through. I'm not as extroverted as others. I don't have the emotional intelligence, but like technically speaking, and like being I don't know, like super autistic with numbers and math oriented, being online and in my room, I was like thriving. Yeah, I played a bunch of the circuit, would go to like LA and, dust off a bunch of buy-ins and then run it back up. But then that same year, going out to Vegas, went out, I drove from Providence to Vegas, was like super motivated.
You drove? Mm-hmm. What was the car?
Honda Accord, 19, fuck yeah. What was it? No, it was 2011 Honda Accord, and I was alone. It took 4 days. It was
Sleep in the car or stop at the hotel?
I slept only once because I had all my stuff in there and like some cash. So I was concerned. So I slept like one day in Denver and then shot over.
Jeez, that's a long drive.
Yeah, it was like 2,400 miles or something.
Yeah, that's nuts. Holy shit.
Yeah,
I've done North Carolina. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I did the drive from Virginia to Vegas when I moved here, but we had a moving truck and, the family and 2 cars and the cat in the car and all this shit. And yeah, we slept in the car the first day. Actually, two nights we slept in the car, and then when we got to Albuquerque, we stayed in a hotel, and then the last day we came here, it was a fucking nightmare. Now, guys, you know why moving's so expensive, the moving companies? Because it's fucking
worth it. Yeah, that's true.
Were you driving the truck or the car?
I was driving the car. My dad was driving the truck. Yeah, he had his dogs in the car with him, towing my car behind him, and we had the SUV behind him.
Jesus.
Like, and all the, yeah. And honestly, like, all our stuff was kind of just like cheap, Haynes furniture shit. I don't know if they have Haynes out here, but it's like, that type of cheap furniture. We could have just fucking just left it and just come out here and bought new stuff. But yeah, such is life.
Just a quick break here, guys. Are you tired of playing with players like this? Not this.
No.
Like this? Or this?
Or Do you want to play with players like this?
Oh wait, if you like having fun at the poker table, Table 1 is the game for you. We play high stakes, no limit, 100 blinds. And if you want to get into the game, it's actually super easy. We have a website, table1.vegas. You just go to the website, you click get a seat in the game, and fill out the form. It's that easy. It's your name, it's your phone number, it's the date that you're here, and I will personally reach out to you.
And it's only $5K minimum buy-in. You know, run it up at 2.5 and join us. All right, so were you moving out here, or you just want to come out here for an extended period of time to kind of like test the Vegas waters?
Yeah, I came for the series. I guess I didn't mention that. And I was like, I'm not going to Uber every day for 20 miles or whatever it was. So I wanted my car out here. And I cashed like one event all summer and then played the main event with 70% of myself and had the best run of my life, you know?
Yeah, for those who don't know, he made the final table. That's I don't want to jump ahead too much because I do want to get into the run a little bit. But you're fairly young. You're like 24 at this point, something like that?
Yeah, still 23.
23, jeez.
I had played 3 live final tables up to that point, or that was my third. So I had no concept of playing 25 big blinds, button versus small blind, or small blind versus button, or
With a 500K pay jump.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how did you handle that? Did you know at the time that you were, I don't want to say incompetent, but like maybe behind the curve a little bit when it came to like sub 25 blinds?
Oh no, I was super delusional.
Okay,
and
good. All right. No, that's the best way to be.
Very confident, and the numbers were like, it was so surreal that the numbers were just numbers on a screen. It didn't translate to like, oh, this is gonna really change my life.
Yeah.
'Cause I was chip leading from like, I don't know, day 6 to mid day 7, and I was just super flowing the whole time, and yeah, not thinking about the money or anything, just in the moment.
That's nice. And then, like we've had some other guests on that have made final tables and have won, but I always like to ask about the journey, like whatever. Where were you after day 1, day 2, day 3? Like not necessarily chip wise, but like kind of mentally. Like, did you get good night's
Was
sleep?
it wire to wire? Were you feeling good, or
Did you get in bad like 5 times in a row, like and just sun-runned it, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess, well, day 1 chip wise, I bagged like 3.5 starting stacks, but
That's
I was very calm that day. I guess ran like a huge bluff at the end of the day and got through, and I'm like, man, we're gonna do it. Day 2 is smooth sailing. Again, feeling calm. It's like played with Phil Locke for the first time. Went on the stream table then, and I was
cool.
like, man, this is so cool. Like, I love Phil Locke. He's such a character.
honestly kind of nice to get like early day stream table because it's so intimidating deep. Like had like a kind of a deep run too, and once we got on the stream table, I was like my first time on one, and I'm just like nervous. Everybody's kind of nervous except for if you've done it, you know, even just like, you know, a couple hours of experience makes a big difference, I think, going deep.
Exactly. Yeah, I was lucky in that regard. Where did you finish that year?
I got 41st the year that McKeon won.
Oh, okay.
So 15, I think.
Yeah, that's exciting. And even then, that's like, what, 200K, 150K?
Yeah, it was 160 and change. Yeah.
It's so sick that you can just win.
Yeah, right.
Like 41st place, you still win 160K. Like,
Yeah, I think it's the first time I've gone that deep in a tournament, like, you know, final several tables. You could see the finish line and not be like super wrecked and disappointed when I busted, just because there was like not life-changing money, but like a decent chunk of money on the other side of it. So I was actually not really disappointed at all when I busted, which was weird.
As somebody that was backing Arda this time, I was disappointed.
Oh, well.
you had high hopes. You were counting your eggs.
I was at the Black Tap bar. It may have been a different name back in that time or whatever at Venetian. I was playing some fucking $1,500 there, but like I'm on dinner break and literally just fucking looking at my phone, waiting for the updates, and the bad one came in.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I remember busting, and it was so draining for me that like my wife and my friend were on the rail, and I busted, and I was like, oh, you know, a little disappointment, whatever. We're gonna go to the cage, and I'm like, oh well, at least, you know, we could celebrate, you know, your birthday dinner tonight because it's my wife's birthday, and she was like, my birthday was yesterday. And she was like, but I didn't say anything because you were just like
In the zone.
yeah, you're just like every single day, you know. So,
Oh man, how'd you feel? And did you have the pit in your stomach?
no, she said it in such like a she wasn't disappointed type of way that I was just like, okay, well, let's not let that happen again.
Yeah. I forgot my
good for her, by
mom's
the way.
birthday once, and I felt like the worst human being of all time. So, man.
All right, back
Wait
to
till you
your
get a wife.
yeah, wait till you get a wife.
You're going to feel worse at some point. All right, so day 2 was smooth sailing. So you just go to bed just like confident. Like, I mean, you're 23. You got to be confident. Like, the excitement hasn't overtaken like the moment yet, though. Like, it looks like.
Yeah, it was like a mix of like huge excitement and just I don't know, zen calmness. I was working out in the mornings, and that has to
good.
help so much because by the time I got home, I was so drained. Everyone talks about being too wired and not being able to sleep during these runs, but I'm not saying every run. I mean, I just made a final table the other day, and I had the worst sleep ever. Yeah. Came into the FT and got 7th. But yeah, this one I was sleeping like a baby every night, and that really helped. Day 3, I 4-bet Jack 7 suited because a guy was sitting out from the big blind and almost cost me my tournament life. So,
Did the guy call off or?
Yeah, what happened with the hand? Do you remember?
4-bet. It was really the guy folded out a turn. He didn't know he was in the
Gotcha.
big blind. Thought he was under the gun. I open like under the gun 8-handed. This good French reg 3-bets me. I 4-bet. He calls. Comes King 7-3 with a diamond. I had diamonds and I bet small. He calls and I was like, I'm just gonna jam any diamond turn. Turns a brick, check, and the river was a flush, and it went check, and I just showed down against, I guess, ace queen, and won, and he didn't bluff, so I was very lucky there.
How does he not bluff?
I know, I got lucky in like so many different ways, like
Yeah.
day 4, just multiple times, some guy had nut flush blocker and just like called me on the river instead of turning his hand into a bluff when I was thin value betting, like, so I wasn't like sucking out on people or hitting crazy one-outers, but I was just lucky in many different post-flop pots.
Still like hopping through the variance very well. Like, I gotcha. Well, that's great.
And you don't realize it like that. It's so tough to understand how much luck plays a factor until you're all in with aces a couple times in a few days, and you're running bad in other spots and you lose with aces, and you're like, man, I can't even win with aces. But when you're getting bluffs through, check raises through, or whatever, you're just taking it for granted.
Yeah, for sure. And people kind of take the low variant road against your thin value bets and stuff like that too. It's an easy feeling when you can bet with impunity on rivers and know that you're not going to face a whole lot of adversity, and if you get raised, you know what you're going to do. But that is a high form of luck. So day 3, 4, and then 5. You said you started to become the chip leader. Like,
yeah, I had a lot, like 100 bigs from day 4, really day 3 to like day 6. So it was a lot of fun. It felt like a cash game the whole time.
Yeah, shit.
Like sure for you as well, unless you were riding a shorter medium stack.
I had fluctuated a bit. Yeah, I was kind of medium to short most of the ride, and I played. I mean, to your point about luck, I played an all-in pot that was probably for way too many blinds in the main event against some young German idiot, some kind of Fedor, Holtz maybe.
yeah, no one knows him.
And I won with jacks and busted his kings. So he went home. That was like that was like day 4 or something. Maybe it was day 5. I don't even remember. But yeah, so that was the only real big pot I played. And then I felt super unlucky when I got my kings and lost to somebody's ace 8 suited or something like that. Mm-hmm. But
that was a dumb hand. But either way, enough about the things lost. Let's focus back on you. So when you're going into the final table, where are you chip-wise in the bunch?
I was 7 of 9,
okay.
And that was actually kind of nerve-wracking because I was 1 of 25, and I had like a failed bluff attempt. And looking back on it, I think, if I got 12th or whatever after being 1 of 25, it would be kind of like not buying Bitcoin. I would have some regrets I would have to fare with for a long time. But I came in like middle of the pack and was just really grateful at that point to not be out in 10th place. And again, just, what did I come in? I guess I had 30 big blinds, and I wasn't that aware of what was going on.
That's a tough final table that year.
Yeah.
That was the John Sin year for those
That's right.
unaware.
A lot of really good players. Joe Cotto was there. Tony
Cotto,
Miles.
man. Joe Cotto had the sickest summer. He won like 2 bracelets and
Yeah.
FT'd the main. It was,
Yeah.
And he won the closer right after the main, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He cashed for several million and then just snap late reg the closer and win it for whatever, $150, whatever it pays, you know, not even a pay jump. But
no, it was
can't think of it that way. Right?
600K.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah,
okay, never mind.
30-minute levels, 1,500 though. Like all the heart in the world to
Yeah, to
jump around
register.
there.
Jesus, I can't imagine.
So what was did you do studying for any of that stuff or going in, or you just were like, I got 30 blinds, I'm lucky to be here, I'm just going to play my game, and however the chips fall, that's where they fall?
Oh, we didn't have a day off. It was the only year.
Yeah.
Like obviously there was November 9, and then in the years past there was like at least one day between. They just threw us right into it.
They went from a delayed media to a 0 media day.
Yeah, pretty much.
What time did you guys bag the day before the final table, you remember?
I don't remember. I think it was pretty early because
Okay.
we only, we played from 35 down to 10. I mean, this year they did like day 8 instead of day 7. It was quite long.
Yeah.
Had to add in a whole extra day with 1,000 more entries or whatever.
All right, really quick, guys. Phenom Poker is out now. It is live. If you want to get extra tokens, 100 extra tokens, and if you want to support Table 1, just go to joinphenompoker.com, and that will help us. Fill in your information, and you'll be on with us.
Tons of people on there, tons of action, especially until Art and I will run out of money, I think.
That's true. And we are doing some sort of free roll. Anyone who signs up through our link, we're going to eventually reveal the details on Twitter, but if you sign up through our link, we are going to go all in up to 10 times at $100 no limit until somebody wins the $100. We might stack you 10 times and you'll lose 1,000 in this promotion, but we are trying to give away 100. So if we accidentally stack you 10 times, thanks. Thanks for playing. All right, joinphenompoker.com. Now!
Yeah, like the most exciting was really day 6. I was 30 of 105 and just ran like God and ended up being like 2.5x average by the end of the day. And I think that kind of worked against me because I was feeling too good, a little too good. And yeah, came in that last day with a little too much fervor, perhaps.
Yeah, you got chips to burn, and burn them you did.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a real feeling out there if you ever get to be chip leader deep in a tournament. You feel like it's your responsibility to try to run the table over when it doesn't really have to be. You can just play normal poker, and people
Right.
are going to think you're running the table over and give you chips.
Yeah. There's lots of ways to skin a cat,
Yeah.
I guess is the way to say it.
So I don't even remember your bust out hand. Was it like obviously it was significant, but like was it interesting at all, or was it just kind of like straightforward?
Not really. I made a somewhat loose shove. I shoved 17 bigs with a suited gapper, 8-6 suited, small blind into like the chip leader at that time.
Okay.
I was 6 of 6, so it wasn't like a super torch, but
Yeah,
nowadays.
17 blinds is they would kick you out of the poker GTO club if you did that today.
Sure. Yeah, it was suboptimal. And again, I just didn't know ranges that well, and that's, I mean, just to talk about like action buying and how people play tournaments nowadays, I think it's good and fine to look at a tournament at the start and be like, oh, this is a sick tournament, but how are you going to do with 20 people left when it's 8 of the best players in the world? Like that 10K last year at the Win, for instance, it was just like Lucky Chewy,
Mormon,
Art Marderosian, Ben Heath, Chris Moorman, like all these great players, and so like the late game matters so much because obviously all the money's up top.
That's right. Yeah, it's a great tournament as long as you can compete against the best of the best. Because like even if you get lucky all the way there, you're still going to face like 80% like super pros for the most part.
Yeah, when Chris Moorman gets to play 4 times, he's going to make a day 2.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and he made it back to back actually.
Yeah, that was sick. We had him on like right before, right?
Oh yeah, cool.
We did. That was good. All right, so you're 23 years old and you hit for $1.8 million. You said you had 70% of yourself, so we can all do the math, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how you were when you were 23 with that much money, but I know I would not be a good human for a while. What were you like?
Sure. Yeah, my head blew up. I was far too confident in my poker play, to say the least. I moved out here pretty fast. There was somewhat of an urgency because of the tax year, like save money to
Sure.
get here for half of the year. So I moved right into to the Martin, to the 28th floor, to like a furnished apartment. And that was not good for me. I wasn't like, I'm not a huge partier, but I mean, Vegas, you can just have drinks and food and whatever whenever you want, weed whenever you want. I was big stoner at the time, so isolating myself, getting into, plenty of trouble, just chasing like pleasure essentially. Playing a bunch of video games and just not making much of my life for a while, to be completely honest. And as for poker, I started playing 25Ks on my own dime with like 40 buy-ins or whatever.
I think that's very reasonable, actually.
And just, being outmatched in those fields as well, because again, I was way too confident. And so I had to learn pretty fast that like, hey, this is going to go south pretty quickly if you don't make some adjustments.
This was pre-COVID time, like when you're like firing off. I know like the main event run was 16 or 18. 18? I can't remember.
18.
So,
so I had a good year and a half of like traveling to Bahamas, losing 50K there, and also spending. I mean, I've always been generous with my money, and that's one thing I would never change. Is like I donated like tens of thousands of dollars, and like I'd be giving homeless people $100 here and $100 there, and I'd be like, it doesn't matter. I felt like I had infinite money.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't. But that's one thing. Even when I went broke after that, so I went to zero, and that was like one thing I would never change. Is that all the lives I was able to help. I was like, even when I was at zero, if I could go from 0 to 30, I wouldn't take that money back.
Yeah, good for you. I was going to say like it's probably the only productive money you spent of $1 million was helping people out. I mean, I'm not, obviously you were trying to make yourself money at the same time, but when you look back, you can't get mad at the loaning money to people or helping out people.
Sure.
Do you have like a specific charity that you like, or are you just like targeting like individual donations to people?
Yeah, good question. At the time, I donated to like St. Jude. I wouldn't do that again because I'm not sure not that they're a bad organization, but it's like a huge company. So I'd rather go to a smaller organization or just individuals. And I probably got scammed a bunch of times. Like some people would be hitting me up online and I'd be like, okay, people I didn't know and be giving to them. But also like people in Armenia that I knew were hurting. There was a war there and we had a bunch of land taken from us, so I'd be giving to families that were in need of the money and things like that. And I think that goes a lot farther than just giving to some huge organization.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's like, it's kind of like what's the reg? Is it the effective giving charity?
Right.
The Libori one and
the double up drive with Dan Smith, and then
those are good ones as far as I've researched anyway, which is not a ton. I mean,
I actually considered giving to that one.
Yeah,
the double up one or
the reg.
Yeah,
those
are good ones.
One night I remember just being at a low and being probably stoned, and I had like, I don't know, I was down to like 300K or something, and I was like, I really feel like giving 50K to this organization because maybe I didn't feel like I was doing well with the money or something subconsciously, and I didn't do it, but I was pretty close to just going on there and just wiring the money in a weird kind of impulsive moment.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't have to get crazy. Honestly, if you're downswinging out there, guys, or anywhere, like giving a little bit of money, it can be selfish. It feels good, so you should do it. Like it's not going to hurt you that much, Just don't bluff it off with 7 deuce for that last 300 and send the 300 to someone else. It really does feel good to give some money. So do it for selfish reasons. Now that the holidays are over, people stopped giving.
Still continue. Yeah,
keep it up.
Yeah, that's really well said, and I think that the idea of like, if a homeless man has $1 in his pocket and you give him $100 or $20 and it makes no difference to you, like you just changed his life so much, so you should absolutely give that money and give it over and over. And people say like, well, what if they go and use it on drugs? And Yeah, if I was out on the street, I'd probably go buy some beers too and
Yeah.
drinking a 40 or whatever.
You're still increasing his happiness.
Yeah, and if you're really worried about that, like there's other stuff
Yeah,
you can do. You can keep hand warmers in your car, and when you see someone, you just
right.
give them one of those in a water, and you just at least helped his day a little bit. So
Yeah, exactly. Buy some Chipotle for
Yeah.
someone, hand warmers.
My wife's got
whatever
like
it may
little
be.
goodie bags like in her car. She just keeps like 10 or 15. It's just like, it's usually like they need hats, like, you know, to keep out of the sun, especially in Vegas or whatever. It's like hat, water, like a $20 bill. Like I can't remember. There's like 10 things she puts in like these little Ziploc
And a
bags or
joint.
whatever. Yeah.
That's really sweet.
Yeah. She's a lot better at it than I am, or more consistent anyway.
you guys are sick. You're always volunteering. Anyways, enough about us being awesome. Let's go back to you.
Let's go back to you going broke after being a millionaire.
Yeah, I mean,
So was it just like solely like buying into like high stakes tournaments and just kind of being, I don't want to say lazy, but like kind of just resting on your morals a bit, and then
Yeah,
like at
exactly.
the end of like a year and a half or 2 years, whatever, how long it took you, it was like, where'd all the money go?
Yeah, that was part of it, like not studying hard, wanting shortcuts, like hiring a coach and thinking that I would somehow like transcend studying, not understanding the actual work ethic it took, spending too much money, buying family gifts, taking maybe a first class flight here and there. I was never crazy into that, but spending too much money. And just leaking in so many ways. You know, you forget about this subscription, as we all do, and doing that like 5 times over in a few different ways. So, got down to like 200K and then 100K, and then I guess I kind of ran it back up from that point. But my mindset, it's really always about your foundation and your mindset, because I didn't really have goals. I didn't really have a future planned in my head. I've always wanted a family and kids, but when you're living alone, the bachelor life in Vegas, and just not having really a true purpose, you're not going to spend your time on average, at least as a young man, doing the right things. And then thankfully I went broke because I needed to, because I think that if I went from having $1 million to 5 to 15 to whatever, not that I couldn't have returned to the righteous path, but it was very unlikely that I would have, been a good man for a long time.
You would have thought the path you're on was correct, because clearly you're making money. So like, why would you change this? Like, sometimes you have to be smited to
That's a good word. Yeah.
to kind of realize to snap you back into place. So when you went broke, did you? Obviously, you kind of hunkered down, you focused more. Did you need backing? Did you kind of reach out to anyone individual to okay, like I promise I'm a good poker player, like back me?
Yeah, I went to like 50K, and that felt like zero.
Yeah.
Like just coming from, I mean, I say $1 million, but like I paid way too much in taxes, and like that's 700 or 800K, whatever. And it really wasn't, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't actually that much money, but for so long I felt like a lot of shame and guilt. And I never wanted to like ask a bunch of people for money. I think there's like this Bryn Kenny clip where he's like, I went from plus 700 to minus 500 to plus 1.1 to minus 2, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, I could never do that. Not that I couldn't get the credit, but I would just feel bad owing people. So I got down to 50K, and that felt like zero. I was like, I need my life expenses. So I asked Ali Imshirovich for backing, and he backed me for some time. And then we didn't see eye to eye on a few things, and I was minus 170K or something. Was lucky to win this. I got second in a mystery bounty at the win for 180K and cleared, and then just grinded it up from there. I was playing like 33s online. I was playing.
So you just parted ways at that point, or
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Pretty much.
gotcha.
So you basically have the same bank roll after the backing deal. So you just decide, instead of getting another one, you just play much smaller stakes and grind.
Oh, I had like 5K to my name or something.
Okay.
And then I just grinded it up online, and I really loved that process. And it was kind of like relearning the game, falling in love with the game again, and going through that same process over and over of like, you're such a fucking idiot. Like, you made this mistake. You did, and I did this 1,000 times over. And then with crypto, and then, oh, you could have bought this property, and just over and over giving myself grace. And I was smited, like you said. And that at that point, I feel like God returned me to him, so to speak. I found my faith again, and that was like the most beautiful thing that could have happened, because I grew up in the church and then went away from it, and I didn't really believe, and then being down at a really low point and being broke, I again found my faith, and it was stronger than ever, and I kind of returned to that righteous path and just was like, hey, you tried this this world thing where you chase the women and the money and the pleasure, and that didn't work out. So let's go another route and see how it works out with just actually trying to be good and do good in the world and practice your faith well.
Yeah.
Good for
That's
you,
awesome. Good for you. Yeah.
Nice.
So how long was this grinding process before you're comfortable playing some of the higher stakes buy-ins that like we obviously expect you to play these days?
Let's see. I guess I had some online scores, and I was mostly playing online, I guess, for about a year. I didn't really want to be in the live setting. And then, yeah, I guess 3 years ago was like my first breakout win at the PokerGO.
Yep.
You
had a good series, the whole series, right?
Or was it 2 years ago? Yeah, the PokerGO Cup, and I won like the first event that I played. And it was kind of a long time coming. I always felt like good enough strategy-wise, but mentally it was such a big difference because I didn't feel confident in there. Like I didn't feel that I was worthy of being around these guys, or like if I had the chips, I would probably just punt it off for, forcing it.
Right.
Reasons of inadequacy or whatever.
Yeah, right. You had already. I mean, I'm just kind of visualizing your life on like the Dunning-Kruger chart or whatever, where like at first you're a beginner, and then you like just feel like you're an expert because you have like some success or you have some insight or some breakthrough that like all beginners have, and then all of a sudden you just kind of crash down to like your confidence level is like way lower than it should be, and then kind of you slowly like come back up, and you're like in this trough down here where you're coming back up, and you're like, okay, I've peaked. I didn't know anything actually, and like now you've regrinded and you're learning, and you don't feel like your confidence is low because you're not you're playing with the guys that you said you don't feel like you deserve to be at the table with them, but clearly you had put the work in, so you did deserve it. You just hadn't had the results yet, the secondary results, I guess.
Yeah, and trough is a good term because you can just get stuck there and be like, it's so much harder to, my first run up, I was like carefree, happy, like in the main event, and just like won a bunch of money. But the second time around, you go broke and you have all this negative emotion to deal with. It's so much harder. It's, I think gambler's confidence is a good term.
Yeah.
Like if you lose your gambler's confidence, then you're at a big disadvantage.
That is very true.
Relatable.
But yeah, to the point, like, I mean, I know the tournaments that you are regular in now, like a lot of it's the PGT series, like all the way through, which is fantastic. We very much love Kerry Katz and what he's done over there. But yeah, it's a lot of killers over there, and it's tough. Like I know we've battled might be a loose term, but like we've played together over there a handful of times, and like I certainly feel that way, and like I kind of embrace the lack of knowledge comparatively to the other people at my table and just increase variance, which you have seen. But like I think that's just a Band-Aid, and that's just an excuse to play the way I want as opposed to actually getting better and like wanting to compete. Like I'm scared if I try to get better and I still don't measure up, then I'll lose all confidence, where if I just kind of embrace variance, then I'm like, well, they were better than me anyway. Like it's a not a very mature line that I've taken, I will say, but it is enjoyable.
No, I think what you're doing is actually good because you're leaning into your confidence and like going strong with your reads and whatnot. Can I tell the hand that we played?
Of course, yeah. I love that hand.
When you said battle, I smiled because I raised first in with kings in the small blind.
He was raising a lot of hands, by the way, guys, just before this. But go ahead. All right, yeah.
Sure, as I do. And Justin takes the deuce 4 offsuit and just rips for like 17 bigs or 20 bigs and flops the open ender, jack 5-3, and just turns me dead on the 6. And I believe it's the phrase at the Aria.
Yeah, yeah. Like this is how we Vegas.
This is how we Vegas.
So like,
with that after.
like I can't remember. I think I'm like the 7 seed. He's like the 6 or like whatever. We're like kind of into the table, but like one of the logos on the end like is like like you said, like a promo for RA or something like that. It's just a, this is how we Vegas, and like whatever. I get it in like Deuce 4 versus that. Deuce 4 is my favorite hand, by the way. But like,
Is it? Okay.
yeah, and like I turn him dead, and I think I just pointed at the thing. I was like, this is how we Vegas.
Cocktails.
And those moments are like so much better than just being like, oh, this guy is like the worst, and I lost with kings. Like I'm so unlucky. Like being able to have a smile on your face and leave the tournament and go home like just another day. It's a way better experience.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, you took that better than probably 98% of people, just in general. Even though, like, the people that play those tournaments are almost always respectful and, like, very nice. But, like, yeah, if I would have done that to an average guy at the Venetian 1500, he might have punched me in the face. Like,
Like it wasn't disrespectful. It was like we were on the same wavelength of
Yeah.
like the jokes that day and stuff. So, yeah, it's
Yeah, I think poker it's working its way back towards like we all realize that we're even if it doesn't go our way, we should probably be having fun. And I like to think this podcast has something to do with it, even though there's only a few thousand of you out there listening, which this is probably a good time to tell you to like and subscribe and tell 2 of your grumpy friends to
Yeah.
watch this so that they can have more fun when they get a bad beat.
yeah, sometimes you got to remember, even though we're playing for real money, that it's still a game, and you're still playing with, like, people. And, like, most of these people are very nice and all just want to have fun as well. So, like, nothing wrong with, like, 9 people sitting down at a table, gambling, and just wanting to have fun. And that's...
Yeah, and you don't have to tell them how bad they play after they beat you.
Of course.
You really
You can
don't.
just...
I'm talking to you. Right there.
So that's great. So you were staked for a little bit, and you're down to your last 5,000 essentially, and you're just grinding your ass off, like building a roll up, which has to breed confidence in your play and like the study that you've put in. And now you're playing 5Ks, 10Ks, 25Ks, kind of at your whim. Like, is that fairly accurate? I mean,
yeah. I mean, being able to just play the games and have access to them, it's really not a financial thing. It's more of a, am I good enough to play here? Both
Gotcha.
mentally and just like, are people buying my action? So, you know, I know guys with like a huge bankroll, but they're like skipping a lot of these events because they don't feel like they're studied enough or they're confident enough. So yeah, like now to be able to walk into the studio and just feel, you know, gratitude and just immense confidence in there. It's night and day from what it was.
so speaking of the PGT and kind of going to more current day right now, the PokerGO series has $1 million free roll at the end of every year. The top 40 players get in based on the points they accumulate through the year. Where are you on that list, or do you know?
Yeah, right now I'm 8th, so I'm
8th.
coming in with like 300 big blinds. It's quite exciting, and that's in I think 5 days from now is we'll play that free roll.
Which is amazing, by the way. I think
Oh,
it's great that they do that, and that's cool that you're 8th and you're coming with 300 blinds. But you have a chance to improve. Like, I mean, you're playing this last series.
Yeah, I can get up to like top 5, top 4, and get like 20 more blinds. But from here, it's just there's some 10Ks running right now. It's just a matter of putting reps in and being in the studio.
So yeah, that was gonna be my question. There's multiple reasons to play this series going on. A, if you're confident and you think you're gonna be profitable, obviously that should be number one. B, like upgrading your stack size, and the $1 million free roll has to be another one. And practice is got to be the third one. Like, does all that kind of play in, or is like you're not concerned about like getting an extra 10, 20 blinds or something like that?
Yeah, that would be the third.
Okay.
You're
Practice.
probably also putting a little defense in too. There's guys behind you that are playing too, right? And they're gonna overtake you blind wise if you don't play. Like, you gotta at least play a little defense.
Yeah, exactly. There's those guys who are like 37th right now I'm feeling for, because last year I was in the spot, I was like 45th or 50th and jumping in between there, and I couldn't get it done. I couldn't win one of these events. And it felt bad to be honest, because I was like top 10 for half of the year, and then the World Series comes around and there's a bunch of really high stakes events that moves the needle. But yeah, hopefully this just won't be an issue, and I'll be in the top 40 in the future as I am now.
Is it Is it a rolling 12-month, or does it just reset after 12 months?
Yeah, it's reset.
It
Yeah.
resets. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just all event. Like, I'm not as much into tournaments as you guys, but
Basically, they have the free roll in like a week, and then after that, they have the kickoff series like the 21st and 25th, which kind of starts the new year for them, the new calendar year.
gotcha. And but they count every event, right? So
Anything 10K or higher or specific 5Ks, like they kind of like certain 5Ks that they have put aside.
okay, so if you're in the top 10 now, what did you? I know I'm supposed to research as a podcast host, but how was your last year? What were the big moments?
Yeah, I've just had great success in the studio. Like, I haven't missed the final table during a series since that initial win, which was 2 years ago, which is like a streak I'm really happy about and grateful for. The last year, some final tables in January. I won the U.S. Poker Open in April, which was the major series. I won one event and I final tabled 3 others. And then during the series, I had like a 4th place in a 10K 6 max at the World Series.
That's a prestigious event. I think a lot of people would like to run deep. It's a fun event, the legroom event. They call it,
Yeah.
I think.
My friend called it the CrossFit event. He's like, how do you say it? Because no one asks, but you tell them that you're playing it.
That is great. That is a funny friend you have.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So yeah, like,
Could also be the vegan event.
exactly, yeah. I didn't play like a 50K or 100K actually last year. I only played like 125 at the series, and I wish I did. Like, so Jeremy Ausmus kind of ran away with it. Like, he's first on the leaderboard, and you get I think it's 50K cash for being number 1. And obviously bragging rights for the year.
We
he
have
was like,
before you go on, we have a thing here. Fuck Jeremy Ausmus.
He's too
Damn.
good at
Yeah,
everything.
no, he's a great guy. We love him very much. Fuck that guy. Continue.
I mean, honestly, fuck him.
Yeah,
Fuck,
I agree.
Fuck you, Jeremy.
You can't be good looking, fucking sing and fucking play guitar. You can probably dance, have beautiful children, and win everything.
In good
Fuck
shape.
Jeremy Ausmus.
We go to this like high tech gym together, and there's this mobility kind of test, and I got a 72, and he's like, yeah, I got a 93.
Well, I'm trying to improve.
Yeah. Well, he just
I
said
barely
it-
tried for what it's
He
worth.
said it so casually. I'm like, were you an athlete? Like,
No. I played chess against him like 10 times. I've lost all 10. Like, I thought I was pretty good at chess. No, Jeremy's just fucking better.
just sipping his coffee, all calm.
Just wakes up fucking goading it on everything he does. Fuck that guy. All right, go ahead. Yeah, that's great. Jeremy's number 1. You're number 8. All right.
I like to say, I mean, just to actually give him some props, I think he's just such a great family man, and I think that's where so much of his edge comes from, is his like playing for his kids, playing for his wife, and goes home to that beautiful family structure.
Yeah, it really is nice. Damn him. All right.
We can edit this part out. We don't have to. We don't have to compliment him.
just the whole thing's just be fuck Jeremy Ausmus.
Fair enough.
All right, so we've talked about past you, current you. Let's talk a little about like future you. Obviously, you have the free roll coming up.
Yeah, you mentioned 50Ks. I mean, do you ever play the Tritons or have ambitions to play some of those?
Yeah, I played last year in Jeju. I played one, and I would like to. They're just such a different animal than these American high-stakes tournaments, both field-wise, structure-wise. I mean, they're raking 6% on a 200K. It makes for quite small win rates, and as soon as you're playing your B game, you're just losing, so you have to be a top-notch player all the time. Yeah, I would really like to get out there, play the highest stakes, and just be the best.
What's
really.
different about the fields there versus the higher stakes ones here? How do they play differently without revealing, all your reads on the Chinese VIPs or whatever you're about to say?
Sure, yeah, like the Europeans, the Brazilians, the international players, they fight so much harder for pots. They bluff a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
They defend bluff catchers way more. American players are much more passive, and it's just a matter of studying. Like, a solver will play so crazy in the eyes of a human because a human will very rarely match the frequencies of a solver. So, yeah, it's like the most aggressive American player is like close to like your average kind of European player until they're, some spazzy American who's not actually that good. Like, so there's very few like Foxens who are really aggressive in these fields and giving you a tough time.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Given that most of my experience is here playing World Series events, and yeah, it's kind of what you said until a Foxen sits down, and then you're like, oh, or like a Justin Liberto or something, and they're like, oh man, these guys are playing really hard for every pot. You can't just like take the small blind off one time, you know?
Yeah. Defend every big blind. And always check raise when you don't have it. And
Yeah.
Only when you don't have it.
yeah, somehow they just check call when you do, and then at the end you don't have it.
Yeah. And then you're like, ask them on the breaks. You're like, what's it like, you know, having a brain that works that fast? Anywho, so you're gonna play. You're gonna try to expand your horizons and play more of those in the coming year.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet.
I mean, hopefully find a backer who's just willing to fire it off and get me in there, because it's quite hard to just sell a bunch of action for 100K. But
Yeah, especially if you're going to travel for any of these Triton events, like they're series. I mean, they're week-long series or 2 weeks long. I mean, you have to sell $1 million basically worth of action. I mean, worth of tournaments. I mean, in order to kind of justify, you can't just go and play one.
yeah.
Have I seen some of your action on PokerStake? Is that you on there sometimes? Okay, because
Yeah.
I'll browse on there once in a while and fire a few shekels at you know, whatever my PayPal balance is,
Nice.
and see what happens. But
Not at me though, because you would have said it already.
I might have, honestly. But I definitely did Jonathan Little a little bit during that one series, and I think did he get like final 3 with you or something, or heads up against you? And
He won. Yeah, he was at
You made
one of the
money,
FTs, but he won the PokerGO Cup last year. That was sick. Shout out to Jay Little, great dude, and yeah, he's really reasonable about his markups. He'd be doing face or 1.05, and us assholes are out here doing 1.1 and 1.15 and whatnot.
take what the market will bear,
Yeah, pretty much.
or you know what you think you're worth. Whatever it is, sometimes it's both.
Yeah, I think win rates are still pretty high. Like, it's obviously subjective, and we don't really know, and we can just theorize. But I think that like the execution and effort just goes such a long way with win rate, and I tend to try really hard, and I think I make up for whatever disparity there is. But I think I'm actually just winning more than these really high markups that are posted.
Cool. Yeah, I heard there's a lot of Justin Young types in there ripping it in with each score off.
Well, if they get there, your win rate's kind of crushed. Oh no.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think, what do we think? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yeah,
Any,
sure.
Zobiancoaching.com?
I would say just be a righteous man. I mean, I'd like to surrender my life to Christ. That's my biggest thing, not a poker thing. Maybe you lose some viewers here, but maybe some some souls will be saved along the way. I mean, I think that's worth it. As for coaching poker, pokercoaching.com is great. We have Justin Sleep on there. We got Brock Wilson. We got Adam Hendricks, Shannon Shore. We got Jonathan Jaffe. We got all these crushers. So give it a try. There's so much different course material.
Do you post videos too on there?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
I got one on like exploits. It's so funny. I made a video series recently that was like on exploits, and the whole time I'm making, I'm like, is this good? Like, I don't know if this is good, or is this too good? Because when I told Brock Wilson about it, he was like, I hate it. He's like, you don't need to tell people that you think that they have this hand when they bet this size on the flop, and so on the river you should turn this hand into a bluff. And I'm like, oh no, we can just adjust, and if people start calling me, I just go the other way.
Yeah, that's what makes poker fun. The parrying and then the attacking.
That's right. It's always a big pendulum, and can't wait to see the pendulum swing back and see how people are going to react to like GTO play and stuff like that. I think it's gonna.
Yeah, dude, I was scrolling Twitter recently, and there's like 3 or 4 like top pros, Jungle Man, I think, Liv Bori, posting basically the exact same thing. It's like, turns out, you know, back when we called it like donk betting to find out where you're at or whatever, turns out it was okay. Like a lot of the top guys are like leaning out for tiny now on the river, like one big blind into like a giant pot, and it's like,
or just
really coming full circle.
Like you check call queen 9-7-3 and the river's a 9, and you're like, well, my opponent doesn't have a 9. I'm all in for like 2x pot, and like you might intuitively find that play as, you know, you're a cash game player and you're leaning in more intuition. But these guys who are studied, they're like, so they freeze up and they're like, I check. You know, all these spots they're not finding the like sick leads or the intuitive plays because
playing in flow, kind of like whatever to the better
in
type
flow,
of stuff.
but like it's actually in flow to like shove. You know,
Right,
it's
right.
actually, or
Sure.
find the small lead on the
Yeah,
river.
I don't mean your flow state. I just mean like playing in.
No, I know what you mean, but it's not actually, it's in flow, but it's like out of flow of the actual like context of the situation because there's what they're actually supposed to do. It's not like a huge exploit. It's just like a baseline play.
Right, now that 9 comes up and both players are thinking, oh, that hits this guy, not me. Right?
Exactly,
Like, so
yeah.
now it would be, like you said, in flow to lead out on that 9. Anyways. I'm all in. Is that the pod? No, wait,
Yeah,
that's not the pod. Where can they follow Aram Zobian on socials? Do you got a...
Oh yeah, just Instagram. It's my name, Aram Zobian.
Okay, you don't have to put that many
underscore.
R's. It's just one R,
Yeah.
actually.
All right, Aram Zobian, go to Poker Coaching and
And follow
find
the
your
Lord.
savior. Yeah. Whoever that might be.
Thanks so much for having me on. This was awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.